Well, good evening, everyone. It is so great to either see you or listen to you or hear you. This is Dave Stevens, and I'm here as your co-host of the Gary Stein and Stevens Show. And again, it's going to be a fun night. Yeah, you might be caught up in football, you might be caught up in NBA or whatever, but we have a legend on our show tonight. A guy I used to work with at ESPN, who has now moved that transition from being on SportsCenter to being an amazing broadcaster for the Boston Bruins. You might have heard him. Here's one of Jack Edwards' calls.
Sagan sets up in front. Now Sagan at the post on the cycles. Right off of Reimer. The stick save. Boychuk's drive. Rattles around in front. Marchand to Bergeron on the drive. Save. Rebound is loose. Sagan kicks it loose. Bergeron scores!
That's right. Jack Edwards joining us tonight. And let me just go ahead and bring in my friend. It is so great to have you with Troy and I tonight. Jack, I know it's been a while since we've been together, but you don't age. I know you don't grow, but you don't age as well either.
It's the wrinkle cream. Just, I don't know. I'm a 16-year-old at heart, so, it's paying off. Someday I'm going to wake up and the wrinkles will be down to my ankles, but, I'm enjoying the ride.
And what a ride it's been, and we're going to reminisce. But tonight, my hockey guy, he's in Minnesota. Troy Geary, my co-host, my brother tonight, and Troy's going to probably run a lot of this because of his hockey knowledge. Picking your brain, Troy, how are things up in Minnesota tonight, even though you got your Kansas City hat on tonight?
I'm doing great. Minnesota is actually a balmy 30 degrees today, so that's improvement from the below zero weather we had. So excited for the show tonight.
Yeah, we love the chance to talk hockey. We sometimes end up a little football dominated on this show, but tonight we're just going to talk hockey and reminisce. And of course, Jack and I, we go way back. I know he started a little bit before me, but Jack's been in this business a long time. Worked his way up kind of in local TV, and then got to ESPN, and then decided, hey, as we all realize, there is life after ESPN. I mean, are you happy? Is life good for you up there in Boston?
Oh yeah, it's great. The ESPN experience was wonderful for growth in my career, and I met my wife at ESPN, and I enjoyed the experience for the most part. But I was frustrated by the land of opportunity, but not knowing how to get the opportunity. So I I last saw you, Dave, at ESPN coming out of the 2013 lockout, was it? And I hadn't been to ESPN since they erected the Iron Gate around the entire campus. And I was told by a gun-toting security guy that I couldn't walk between buildings without a printed pass and an escort. And I said, I was working here when there was a muddy parking lot and employees questioned whether their paychecks would bounce or not. And now it's an iron gated campus. And I don't recall if you said this or not to me, but I remember it's to keep the inmates in, not to keep the enemies out. But, hey, ESPN is many things to many people, and it was a great place to make professional associations and meet with really, really talented people. I mean, back when I entered the ESPN culture full time in 1991, I had done plenty of freelance work for them throughout the mid and late 80s. Um, the Sports Center anchor staff was Chris Berman, John Saunders, Robin Roberts, Dan Patrick, Bill Patrick, Mike Tirico, Chris Myers, um, Charlie Steiner, who was the greatest kicker writer of all time. Who can
Absolutely.
forget his intro to Carl Lewis's national anthem? So, Francis Scott off key. so, so, it was a wonderful place to learn, and I was frustrated most by not being able to talk to the athletes while they were still sweating after the games, because not a lot of teams, period, except for high school teams, come through Bristol, Connecticut. And I had the chance to get uh, an original six job with the Bruins, and it's been Valhalla.
I want to ask you about the 1988 Winter Olympics in Calgary. You were working for ABC and you did alpine skiing for the Olympics. Can you tell us about that experience, just overall experience in general?
Um, I was working at Channel 5 in Boston in the fall of 1987, and I got a phone call right after the sportscast in the sports department. And, we actually had offices, and that was unusual for a local network affiliate. And the man on the other end said, "This is Jeff Mason with ABC Sports. I'm the executive producer of the Olympic Winter Games in Calgary, and I've seen your work calling skiing on ESPN, and I would like to hire you as the on mountain alpine skiing reporter." And I thought it was a prank, because for a kid growing up in New Hampshire, where if you don't ski and play hockey and get into outdoor winter sports, you're lonely. And I it was a dream come true, and that was in the final age of limos and expense accounts and three channels available to the United States. And um, I had imposter complex because the day before the Olympics uh, lit the torch, I got called from Nikiska, which was the mountain where the alpine events were being held, into the brand new Calgary Saddle Dome, which still stands and serves as the home for the Flames now. And I walked into the media lounge now, which was a conference room then, and looked around, and there was Frank Gifford, Howard Cosell, um, uh, uh, Peggy Fleming, um, Jim McKay, Bob Beatty, who was working on the Alpine, Al Trotwig, Dick Button, Eric Hayden, and all these unbelievable did I mention Chris Schenkel and Bill Fleming? And, just these icons of my childhood in sports television. And me, what? I didn't belong in that room. so the day that the men's downhill was scheduled, it is traditionally the first gold medal event of the Olympic Winter Games. And we had 120-mile-an-hour gusts at the top of Nikiska. And there was no race. Before that, the sign-on, I took my radio IFB, which had the signal of the line signal, which was, the broadcast signal, with an interrupt for the truck to talk to me. But otherwise, I was hearing the line out. And I took the earphone plug out of the radio packet and held the speaker toward my 5-person crew. And the Olympic theme began to play as we signed on the air. And I looked around and there were tears in everybody's eyes. We were so thrilled. And to have it called off the first day was actually spectacular for us as a crew, because we were out in really radical weather conditions and it was blowing debris and snow sideways. And after we finished our hit with the race director, which confirmed that there would be no race today, the interrupt button got pressed at Master Control in Calgary, and a voice came on and said, "Attaboy, Jack, this is Roone Arledge." It's just like, what?
Wow.
Whoa! I've heard God's voice. So
for our young listeners, Roone Arledge was basically the brains of the Olympics on ABC when the Olympics was still a big deal internationally.
Yeah, and Roone Arledge is most famous for transforming ABC as a network from an also ran far behind CBS and NBC to prominence in the 1960s when he got the rights for the Mexico City Olympics. And he sent his researchers out all over the world, and they came back to him and said, Mexico City is high elevation, and the East Africans are gonna dominate the distance races. And so he said to them the famous words, "Give me a reason to watch." And he found out, like, from these storytellers who were up close and personal, that was the mode of, or the motto of the features, that a guy named Kip Keino ran 7 miles to school and 7 miles home 6 days a week. So add it up. That's 6 times 14. That's like 84 miles at high elevation every single week. No wonder he dominated. And to get that human side into sports was a breakthrough, because before then it was just wannabes as play-by-play guys and ex-jocks as color guys talking X's and O's. And that universalized, is that a word? Uh, the experience of viewing sports. And by saying that, give me a reason to watch. He changed TV sports forever. And, many have attempted to pick up the torch and carry it forward. Notably, Jed Drake at ESPN in my years there took it forward undoubtedly into the digital age. And he did a lot of daring production that brought the audience closer. But rare is the person who has advanced television sports as much as Roone Arledge, and I treasure that 3-week experience in Calgary.
And what an experience. What a great story. The only thing is, I found the wide world of sports offensive because it was always about the agony of defeat. And since I don't have legs, I find it highly offensive. But anyway, we've got a great show continuing, but I got to tell you about our sponsors. Got to thank Fresh Clean Threads for being a big part of our show. And don't forget, they have all kinds of great shirts that you can wear, Henleys, polos, all kinds of stuff. Make sure you go on to freshcleanthreads.com, use the show code GSS Show, and you get 20% off your order. And you look good, you feel good, you smell good. And of course, hey, what are you going to do when you want to wear clothes that are good? Go to freshcleanthreads.com. Freshcleanthreads.com will make you look good. And again, we got Jack Edwards joining us. And Jack, again, it is so awesome for you to join us for a little bit. I have to kind of show you a little bit of your past because, again, everyone knows Jack Edwards was on ESPN and what he did as a SportsCenter anchor, but people forget the amazing commercials that Jack was a part of when they were in their heyday. Just watch and listen.
Shoe endorsements the past couple of years is kind of hard to explain, but it's really picked up.
This is your shoe. This is the Jack Edwards shoe. It's going to be the Air Jordan of executive footwear.
They want to sign the top sportscasters.
We're not about Berman and Oberman. We're about Jack Edwards. We're going to send you to every shoe show in the country and the world. You ever been to a shoe show?
They'll do virtually anything to get you to sign that contract.
You'd be a part of the family, much like your colleague, Carl Ravitch.
Again, the Indians appear to be the team to beat.
Emotionally, though, he just wasn't prepared.
Jimmy Key is attempting to come back.
Jimmy Key, what's he like, 45? I could hit him.
I mean, it's a different game in here.
Jack, you watch the game? I mean, didn't it suck? It sucked.
It is with much regret that I announced that I am leaving SportsCenter.
Bottom line, he just came out too soon.
Roger.
Jack? I'm going to be a while.
Always a fun time in SportsCenter, especially this commercial. This was the best.
He has not lost his best fastball, Jack.
Oh, come on, 89, 90 miles an hour tops.
95, 96, 2 weeks ago, 100 earlier this year in Detroit. He can still bring it.
Yeah, I don't believe that.
All right, wait, we can settle this real easily. Rocket, could you come in here for a second?
What's up, gang?
Jack here says you can't bring it anymore.
Oh, is that right? Can you hold that for me, please?
98. Pretty good.
Pretty
I
good.
told you there's no story.
Got it.
Thanks, Roger.
You got it, guys. Anytime.
Just a little blast from Jack's past. And Jack, what are your memories of those commercials? I remember, when I used to be on my crutches coming in, and it's like you can't go to work because Evander Holyfield is blocking the elevator. It was always surreal what to expect when we were in our heyday. Just what are some of your memories of those commercials?
First of all, they were so well done. An ad agency, I forget the name, but they were associated with the Nike Just Do It campaign. So they were really top drawer. And they came in and interviewed us for like an hour and a half individually. And then for 6 weeks, nothing happened. And then we got these scripts and they were wild, and they had exactly one grain of truth in them, which is the key to a great joke, and they executed beautifully. And the backstory on the Roger Clemens thing is that I, when working in Boston for the ABC affiliate, criticized Roger, and he took exception to it and got in a well documented, famous poke the little guy in the chest all the way across the Bruins, the Red Sox clubhouse, as the sea of media parted, and nobody defended me against this 6'4", 220-pound monster who objected to my criticism. But we patched it up about a month later, and but I said to him when he got there that morning, I'll bet you wanted to do this in 1986. And he said, yeah, that's water under the bridge. But I still have the loafers that were dressed on the dummy. So, it's a souvenir.
I want you to take us back to your first Bruins broadcast. Being a lifelong Bruins fan and idolizing the greats like Bobby Orr, what was that day like, and what did that mean to you when your the first day on the job there?
Well, I tell this story a lot. My pillow was soaked with tears throughout my childhood because the Canadiens would thwart the Bruins all the time. When I first caught on to hockey, the Bruins were in the course of missing the playoffs for 7 consecutive years in a league in which 4 teams out of 6 made the playoffs. And God bless him, Eddie Johnston played goal for the Bruins in every single one of the games in one season of those years. And Bobby Orr came like a young crew cut god out of Canada and transformed what hockey is to this day in New England. Rinks popped up all over the place. Youth leagues were burgeoning. They couldn't keep skates in stock in hardware stores, which was where we used to buy sports equipment because there were few and far between sports specialty stores. And so when you talk about New England, there isn't an original 6. There's an original 1. And you stay with the Bruins, whether they're good or bad or somewhere in between. And through 29 years of making the playoffs consecutively, an all-time postseason streak that I believe will never be broken in North American sport. They won the cup once. And I hooked on with the Bruins just after the year-long lockout ended. It was Sidney Crosby's debut season and Alex Ovechkin's as well. And it was as surreal an experience as I've ever had, because I set several goals coming out of college as a broadcaster to achieve just be the peak of the mountain. And the most preposterous of them was to be the Bruins play-by-play broadcaster. And, it's all about qualifications and timing, especially timing, because when Fred Cusick finally gave it up, the originator of hockey broadcasting, not just on TV, but on radio in New England, when he finally hung it up, I had just signed a 4-year Sports Center anchor contract. And I went into the vice president of meanness at ESPN
Norby
and
or
said,
oops?
no, it was above his pay grade at that time. Norby is a great guy. And I said to him, there's only one job that is my heart's desire above ESPN, and that is the Bruins play-by-play job. And if you will let me out of my contract, I would like to apply for this job. And he said, no. That was the end of the conversation. And so, they tried a few different play-by-play guys, and I got the news that Dave Shea, they used to split the job between home games, which Dale Arnold was calling, and Dave Shea, who was calling away games. And I got the news that Dave Shea was not going to return like less than a week before the preseason games began. And I was out of contract. ESPN had decided to dump the NHL, and I had just finished a season for HDNet, which had the most brilliant picture of the NHL to an audience of 12 nationwide at that time, because nobody had bought these high definition HD TVs that would fit on a half a wall. We still owned these 300-pound, 27-inch screen, 4:3 aspect ratio TVs. So we had the best picture and no audience, but I did 62 games for them in the pre-lockout season, and I was in contract talks with them, and I printed up a DVD and sent a cover letter and a resume to the Bruins and New England Sports Network overnight, priority. And the next day they called me and said, we want you for an interview. And 48 hours after that, they offered me the job, and I've been living the dream ever since.
Well, speaking of big picture, I did find a picture on the internet. You might remember, Jack, and it's actually, if people can go to eBay, they're able to purchase this Jack Edwards glossy photo from WCVB TV in Boston. $17, I think, is the best offer right now, plus shipping. So, Jack, you haven't aged, my friend.
Save your money. Wow.
Yeah, I try to do my homework. But speaking of homework, you can do your homework and make up all the shows that you've missed of the Gary Stein and Stevens show on your home TV. That's right. You can watch us. My friends in Miami watch us. There's Jason and my other buddy watching us down there in Florida, watching Linda Cohn, my ex-ESPN friend as well. We try to get all the old ESPNers to be a part of this. But yeah, just go on to yourhometv.com. You can watch us. I know we're a podcast and we're on Spotify and everything like that. But when you've got an amazing group like this behind Your Home TV, putting on our shows and putting on what we do, we got to support them. And that's why you can watch me and see my friends like Jack and Kenny Mayne and all the people that we've had. There's my buddy Jason. yourhometv.com to catch the best of the Gary Stein and Stevens show. And Jack, it's been great to have you as we kind of go into our last segment here. And I've got to play some of you because, again, the fans know you, your passion for this game, and it really is great to hear it and to see it. So let's take another listen.
Just under Marchand's stick. Anderson down on his front, and they're going to wave the play dead with the Bruins on the power play coming into the attacking zone. I mean, I understand if this is a peewee game or if there's a bone sticking out of his leg, but that is utterly ridiculous.
Utterly ridiculous, but you know what, Jack? You bring so much passion to the game, and I love listening to you. Our fans love listening to you, and of course, our fans love it because we had one of our fans reach out and say, what is the greatest part of your job as the voice of the Bruins, and how do your fans react to your passion for the game? Thank you, Micah, for that question. Again, we've heard that passion. We hear it all the time. Sometimes you get in trouble for it. So where does it all stem from?
It all stems from my soaking wet with tears pillow as I was a kid, crying myself to sleep after yet another defeat at the hands of the Montreal Canadiens. Hockey is such a passion-driven game, and those of us who were fortunate enough to follow it day in and day out are intoxicated daily by the pace and the courage and the skill and the cunning and the cleverness of players. And that particular situation, the Bruins were down by 1 in a playoff game. And, the man was hurt, but he was making his way to the bench. The Bruins were carrying the puck into the attacking zone, and the on-ice officials blew dead a scoring opportunity in a 1-goal playoff game. There's an old saying in soccer: players can win games, coaches can lose games, referees can ruin games. So I go off often, and the fans forgive me because I don't know why. I am a New Englander for all but the first 4 years of my life, and they seem to be forgiving me and forgive me because they know I am sincere and passionate, and I might spark a passionate tone in them.
I was going to ask you about this year's Bruins team, best record in NHL. What do you think is the major improvement from last season to this season?
Well, I think Bruce Cassidy laid a really solid foundation for the defensive aspect of this team. And Jim Montgomery, a combination of 2 things. Well, 3 things. Obviously, he's a different voice. And in hockey, more than any other sport, because the game depends on such consistent intensity of effort from the players. Coaches' voices, no matter how right they may be, have a declining effect on players. And sometimes it's just time for another voice. Cassidy took over for Claude Julien, the most successful coach by any measure in Bruins history. And my knee-jerk reaction to that firing was, this is really a dumb move. Well, the Bruins took off and they made the playoffs when they were out of the playoffs, and they improved virtually every year under Cassidy, despite an eroding roster. And Jim Montgomery has a cleverness and a confidence that he imbues in players as an offensive minded coach, and he encourages players to take risks, and he knows that sometimes the risks are going to blow up, but through half a season and a full training camp, I have yet to hear him throw one player not only under the bus, but off the curb. And he subscribes to the Mary Poppins method of feedback. A spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down. And the team has reacted to that. And at this juncture, I think they're 35 or 34, 5-4. Something impossible, and on record points percentage pace. And I didn't, in my wildest expectations, foresee this.
Now, Jack, the coach isn't afraid to he won't throw the players under the bus, but you've been known to talk about opposing players and things like that. I know you had a recent not issue with the Lightning forward, Pat Maroon. Might have talked a little bit about him being overweight. It got back to him, but it actually turned out to be a positive thing for charity. I mean, is it tough for you when they go, "Oh, look at you! Don't know, you didn't skate, you didn't play"? I mean, because you're kind of just saying what the fans are saying sometimes, but I know you get those repercussions for what you say on the air.
Yeah, well, the backstory on the Pat Maroon thing is that we were comparing him to um, the Big Rig is his nickname, and we were comparing him to the forwards who would get routinely bludgeoned in front of the attacking goal, and how hard it was to move the players out of there now, because he is, if you take hockeyreference.com, which is a really reliable source, he is tied for the heaviest forward in the NHL. If you take NHL.com, which is susceptible to team driven propaganda, he is either the third or fourth heaviest forward in the NHL. And we weren't saying he was fat. We were joking about his total weight. And, somebody on social media connected the dots, and it was a firestorm. And I admire the Tampa Bay Lightning for making a donation to a group that helps people with weight, but I never said that Pat Maroon had mental problems or he was fat. It's just, these are elite professional athletes. Every single player who pulls on an NHL sweater, even for only one game, is an elite professional athlete. I happen to think that because of their skating skills, they're the best athletes in the world, because they have to be physically, aerobically fit, bullish strong, quick of mind, quick of reflex, and have magical hands to do the things that they are trained to do while being assaulted by 5 enemy skaters who average 6'1" and 200 pounds. And, they're fighting over a puck that doesn't bounce true. So combine these factors and, my unabating admiration for these athletes comes out. And it was a joking moment between Brick and me, and it got blown completely out of proportion. But
As the media does, right?
well, it's social media and what it has turned into, but I just interpret it as a part of the job and baggage that every person in the public eye has to carry.
I want to hear your opinion on this. Do you think Ovechkin will break Gretzky's record?
Yes, I think he will because he loves to score goals. And he's unbelievably durable. Not to go back to the weight thing, but he weighs 230 pounds. And earlier in his career, he could really motor, and people didn't give him credit enough for how robust he is physically. And that will help him endure his slower years. It happens to all of us. And I think he will stick around until he has that record. He's a goal scoring machine. I go back to a baseball analogy from the 1970s. Steve Carlton had the best slider perhaps in baseball history. And he got two strikes on a hitter, and a catcher who will go anonymous to protect his secret said to me once, this batter, who is currently in the Hall of Fame, turned to him and said, he's going to throw me that bleeping slider. It's going to come in at the waist and break to my knees, and I'm going to swing and miss it. The catcher said nothing. The slider came, strike three, swinging. You know what's coming with Ovechkin, as you did with Carlton, and you still can't function around it. A hitter couldn't hit Carlton's slider, and a goalie, well, the shot either hits him or scores. And, Ovechkin's one timer from the left wing circle as a right shot is an unstoppable shot. It either hits you or doesn't. And if it's on goal, it's in. So,
And
yeah, that's
Gretzky
a
was
long
such
way of saying that he will get the record.
And Gretzky was such a different type of player because Ole doesn't get a lot of assists. He'll occasionally get them, but he's mostly dump it to him. He's going to blast it in. I mean, Gretzky defined and probably made hockey, palatable in the United States because of the excitement. And I just know it's sad, yet it's cool to see, these kind of things happen. And, it's great for the game. And I hope he can, not get an injury to the knee or something. Cause at any moment, those guys, they could be out for a while.
Yeah, Gretz will live forever. Nobody's gonna ever wear the number 99 in the NHL again, and he deserves that. He's been a great ambassador for the game, and I did an ESPN Sunday morning conversation with Gretz just after he passed Gordie Howe for the all-time record. And I said, your children are toddlers and they won't reach the age of reason till you're probably after your prime. What do you want them to know about you that they can't possibly absorb as toddlers? And he thought for a moment, as he always did. He never gave stock answers, and that was part of his effort to sell the game. And he thought for a moment, and he said simply, how hard I worked. And that sums it up with the most talented player who ever laced up skates. Bobby Orr, for my mind, is the player who revolutionized the game. There are similar players to Orr who play in the style of Orr, but Orr was the original player who turned defensemen into a 200-foot threat. Gretzky did what nobody else can do because he saw past the second pass. He saw the geometry in his head like a grandmaster at chess, but he didn't have 90 seconds between moves. He had 0.2 of a second between moves, and nobody's mind has worked that quickly ever and ever since.
Well, Jack, thank you for spending some time with us tonight. It's been great to reminisce. And of course, don't forget, you can go on eBay and get the Jack Edwards photo for $17. I don't know if it's gone up, but no, Jack, you've been such a good sport, and it's great to see you. You and I, it was nice to have somebody about the same height as me at ESPN when I didn't have my legs on. So, you always made me feel comfortable. But no, you were always a good friend. I miss our times that we would sit in the newsroom and just kind of talk about Minnesota Twins and other sports other than the ones that ESPN wanted to cover of the Giants, Jets, Eagles, all those kind of things. But you've been a great sport. Thank you so much for being a part of it. Troy, how cool was this tonight, huh?
Yeah, it was a blast talking to you tonight, Jack.
And of course, again, thank everybody, our sponsors out there. Of course, make sure you go to freshcleanthreads.com and just check out the clothes that they have. And of course, listen to Jack Edwards on Nesson, wherever you pick up hockey. You've got those cable packages that you get. And, you can go there, buy some fresh, clean threads, go to a Bruins game, and it'll be a good night. So for Troy and Jack, you got anything you want to say before we kick you out of here?
Thanks for having me.
Hey, it was great, my friend. My best to your wife, Lisa, and the kids and everything. And again, Jack is still living the dream, and he'll continue and go Bruins all the way to the Stanley Cup. So for Troy, Will, who's at the Vikings game, and we're not going to tell you the outcome because you're not going to want to know. I'm Dave Stevens. Geary Stein and Stevens will be at the Super Bowl on Radio Row. Don't forget to follow us on all social media platforms because that's what we do. For Troy, for Jack, and myself, that's a wrap. Good night.